I got home earlier than usual. The storm had started just as I pulled into the driveway, one of those sudden spring downpours that turned the streets into rivers. My jacket was soaked through by the time I stepped inside, the familiar scent of vanilla candles wrapping around me. The apartment was warm, lived in. The kind of space that still felt like ours. I was already unbuttoning my damp shirt when I heard her. A voice, low, affectionate, laughing. I froze. She was on the phone. That wasn't strange. But the way she laughed, soft, easy, lit up, was a sound I hadn't heard in a long time. My grip tightened around the damp fabric of my sleeve. My heart did something strange in my chest, a sharp flutter that had nothing to do with the cold. I wasn't even trying to eavesdrop. But then she spoke again, and the words stopped me dead. I love you too. The air thickened, pressing in on me from all sides. For a second, I convinced myself I'd misheard, that my tired brain had twisted her words into something they weren't. But no, there was no mistaking the softness in her voice, the quiet certainty in the way she said it. Not perfunctory, not habitual. She meant it. A voice on the other end, low, indistinct. A man's voice. My ears rang. I forced myself forward, quiet, careful, the hardwood cool against my socked feet. The bedroom door was cracked open just enough to see inside. She was lying on the bed, one arm draped lazily over her stomach, phone tucked against her ear. Her expression was peaceful, her lips curved into the kind of smile I hadn't seen in years. I stood there, unable to move, unable to think, barely able to breathe. And then she said it. The sentence that shattered everything. No, he has no idea. The floor might as well have caved beneath me. I felt the words like a strike to the ribs, like something sharp and metallic lodging itself in my throat. He has no idea. The worst part? She was right. I had no idea. I had spent years ignoring the signs, telling myself things were fine, that rough patches happen, that love settles into something quieter. I had told myself she was busy, that we were busy, that the spark we lost was something we could find again, someday, eventually, when life slowed down. I had told myself 1,000 little lies. But the first lie I refused to tell myself was standing right in front of me now, undeniable and ugly and real. My hand was on the door before I even realized I had moved. I pushed it open, not loud, not violently, but just enough for her to look up and see me standing there. Her face froze mid-smile. The color drained from her cheeks. Her body tensed, fingers tightening around her phone. For one stretched-out second, the entire world stopped moving. She didn't hang up immediately. She didn't fumble for excuses. She just stared. And that's when I saw it. Something worse than guilt. Worse than panic. Relief. Like a weight had finally been lifted. Like she had been waiting for this moment. I felt something snap. Something deep in my chest. A fracture I hadn't realized was there until now. She swallowed hard, pulling the phone away from her ear. I have to go, she murmured into it, then hung up without waiting for a response. Silence. I forced my voice to be steady. Who was that? She hesitated. Just long enough for me to know the answer before she even said it. It's not, she started, shaking her head. It's not what you think. I let out a breath that tasted like rust. Really? Because it sounds like you were just telling some guy you love him. She flinched. Then, something in her posture shifted. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but I felt it. A resignation. A quiet acceptance of the inevitable. She wasn't going to deny it. I forced the next words out, my voice rough. How long? She closed her eyes for half a second, like she was gathering herself. When she opened them again, they were glossy, rimmed with something that might have been remorse. Can we talk about this? She asked softly. I exhaled sharply, a humorless laugh catching in my throat. We are talking about it. She looked down, fingers twisting in the bedsheet. I never wanted to hurt you. I barked out something that might have been a laugh. Well, congrats. You failed. She winced, and a part of me wanted to feel bad for saying it. But a bigger part of me, the part still reeling, still trying to process how 7 years had just collapsed in on themselves, didn't care. I swallowed. My chest felt tight, like my ribs were trying to crush my lungs. Were you ever going to tell me? Her silence was my answer. I nodded slowly, stepping back. My body felt disconnected from my mind, like I was watching myself move. Okay, I said, mostly to myself. Okay. She stood up then, reaching for me, eyes pleading. Please, can we just sit down and I took another step back, out of reach. I couldn't do this. Not here. Not now. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to get out of this room before I said something I couldn't take back. So I turned around, walked to the door, and didn't look back. I didn't know where I was going. I just walked. The second the door clicked shut behind me, I half expected her to call out, to come after me, to say something, but the silence pressed in, thick and absolute. My footsteps echoed down the stairwell, each step heavier than the last. My pulse hammered in my ears, drowning out everything else. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and empty under the glow of the streetlights. I stepped out onto the sidewalk, sucking in a lungful of damp, heavy air. My hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists, trying to stop the tremor, trying to shove the roiling mess inside me back down where it belonged. But it was too much. The image of her lying there, whispering into the phone, saying I love you in a way she hadn't said it to me in years, it was seared into my skull, replaying on a loop, mocking me. I needed to move. Needed to be anywhere but here. I started walking, fast, head down, shoes slapping against the wet pavement. I had no idea what time it was. Late, probably. The streets were mostly empty, a few distant cars rolling by, their headlights flashing across my face. I barely noticed. My mind was spinning, unraveling, pulling apart every moment of the last 7 years, every sign I ignored, every excuse I made for her, every goddamn time I told myself we're just in a rough patch. No, he has no idea. I squeezed my eyes shut. My stomach twisted violently, nausea clawing its way up my throat. 7 years. 7 fucking years, and she hadn't even flinched when I caught her. No guilt. No panic. Just relief. Like she was glad it was finally over. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I should have yelled at her. Should have demanded answers. Should have done something. Instead, I walked away like a goddamn coward, like some pathetic, heartbroken idiot who didn't even have the strength to fight for himself. I exhaled sharply, my breath coming fast, uneven. I wanted to hit something. Wanted to feel something other than this hollow, crushing weight pressing against my ribs. A flicker of neon caught my eye. A bar. I stopped. It was a dive, small, half hidden between 2 closed storefronts. The kind of place where no one asked questions, where people drank alone without expecting company. Perfect. I pushed through the door. Inside, it was dim, the air thick with stale beer and cigarette smoke. A few scattered patrons sat hunched over their drinks, lost in their own worlds. No one looked up when I stepped in. Good. I made my way to the bar, sliding onto a worn-out stool. The bartender, a middle-aged guy with tired eyes, barely glanced at me. What'll it be? Whiskey. Neat. He nodded, grabbed a bottle, poured. The glass hit the counter with a dull clink. I downed it in one go. The burn hit fast, searing down my throat, settling deep in my stomach. It didn't help. I set the glass down. Another. The bartender raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. He just poured. I took it slower this time, letting the warmth spread through me, dulling the sharp edges of my thoughts. I needed that. Needed to turn my brain off, just for a little while. Time blurred. 1 drink turned into 2. 2 into 4. The room tilted slightly, but I welcomed it. It was better than thinking. A voice cut through the haze. Rough night? I blinked. Looked up. A woman had slid onto the stool beside me. Early 30s, dark hair, sharp eyes. She wasn't smiling, wasn't flirting. Just watching. I let out a slow breath. Something like that. She nodded, like she understood. Yeah, I've had a few of those. I didn't respond. Just stared into my glass. She didn't push. Just signaled the bartender for another drink. For a while, we sat in silence, the low hum of the bar filling the space between us. It should have been comforting. It wasn't. I thought drinking would numb everything, but all it did was slow it down, make it hit even harder. She loved someone else. She had been planning for this. And I was sitting here like a fucking idiot, getting drunk in some shitty bar while she was probably in his bed. My stomach lurched. I set my glass down, suddenly disgusted with myself. I needed to get out of here. I pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered over Ryan's name. He'd probably let me crash at his place. He'd ask questions, but at least I wouldn't be alone. Before I could call, my phone buzzed. 1 new message. I stared at the screen, my breath catching in my throat. Her. My hands clenched around the phone. For a split second, I considered deleting it without reading it. But I didn't. I tapped the notification. Come back. We need to talk. My chest tightened. No apology. No explanation. Just come back. Like she still had control, like she still got to decide how this played out. I gritted my teeth. I should ignore it. Should block her number, erase her from my life. But I couldn't. Because no matter how much I hated her right now, no matter how much I wanted to walk away and never look back, part of me still needed to hear why. I stood up, throwing cash onto the bar. The woman beside me raised an eyebrow. That idea, she said. She was probably right. I walked out anyway. I should have ignored the message. I should have blocked her number, walked away, forced myself to accept that there was nothing left to say. But I was already moving, already pushing through the bar doors and stepping into the humid night, my hands shaking with something I couldn't name. I didn't know if it was rage, exhaustion, or some pathetic, lingering hope that she'd say something to make this easier. Something that would let me hate her completely, without question, without regret. The city felt too quiet as I walked, the streets stretching ahead of me in long, empty lines, the rain-damp pavement glistening under flickering streetlights. My head wasn't clear, not even close, but I wasn't stumbling. The alcohol wasn't enough to drown out the reality of what I was doing. I wasn't drunk enough to pretend this was a good idea. Her building came into view, every window dark except for one. Our apartment, no, her apartment now. The light in the living room was on, the curtain drawn just enough for me to see a silhouette moving inside. My stomach twisted. Was she alone? I had no way of knowing, and I hated that it even mattered. I climbed the stairs two at a time, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. When I reached the door, I didn't knock. I turned the handle. Unlocked. Of course. I stepped inside. She was sitting on the couch, barefoot, wearing one of those oversized sweaters she always pulled on when she was cold. She looked up immediately, eyes locking onto mine, searching for something in my face. I didn't know what she found there, but her shoulders tensed. You came. I closed the door behind me. The apartment felt wrong now, unfamiliar, like stepping into a stranger's home. The boxes were gone. She had already unpacked. I shouldn't have been surprised. You said we needed to talk, I said. My voice was flat, unfamiliar. She nodded, standing slowly, like she thought I might bolt. Yeah. She hesitated, then crossed her arms. You left so fast earlier. I didn't know if we were done. I let out a sharp breath. Are you serious? What's left to talk about? She flinched, and for the first time tonight, something in her expression cracked. She looked down, rubbing her arm. I didn't want it to happen like this. I laughed, the sound bitter. How did you want it to happen? Were you waiting for me to just figure it out on my own? Would you have ever told me? Her jaw tightened. I don't know. I stared at her. That was it. The truth. She didn't know. Because she hadn't cared enough to make that decision. She had waited, let me play the fool, let me believe in something that had already died while she whispered love to someone else in the bed we used to share. Something inside me snapped. How long? Her lips parted slightly. How long? I demanded. She exhaled, shoulders slumping. 6 months. It shouldn't have shocked me, but my stomach twisted anyway, like I had been punched. 6 months. Half a year. I thought back to all the moments that should have tipped me off, the nights she stayed late at work, the weekends she suddenly had plans, the way she had pulled away every time I tried to reach for her. You should have told me, I said, my voice quiet. I know. I clenched my jaw. Why didn't you? She swallowed, hugging herself. Because I didn't want to hurt you. I barked out a laugh. Bullshit. You just didn't want to deal with it. You wanted me to be the one to end it. That's why you didn't even try to lie when I caught you, right? You wanted me to be the bad guy. Her eyes flashed with something, but she didn't deny it. She just looked away, her fingers tightening on her sweater. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I felt something cold settle in my chest. But it did. She closed her eyes. Yeah. Silence stretched between us, heavy, suffocating. I should have been angrier. Should have yelled, thrown something, made her feel the way I felt. But I was too fucking tired. I ran a hand down my face. Is he here? She looked up sharply. What? I gestured toward the bedroom. The guy. Is he here? Her face paled. No. I wouldn't. She trailed off, shaking her head. Not tonight. Not tonight. But soon. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the next day. And that was the moment it hit me fully. I didn't belong here anymore. I took a step back toward the door. She tensed. Where are you going? I almost laughed. Where do you think? She took a shaky breath. I didn't call you to fight. Then why did you call me? She hesitated. I don't know. I shook my head. You always say that. Her eyes flickered with some guilt. Maybe regret. But it didn't matter anymore. I reached for the door, but before I could open it, she spoke again. I did love you. I froze. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging me to stay. She was just standing there, arms wrapped around herself, looking at me like she wanted me to believe her. Maybe she thought it would help. Maybe she thought it would make this easier. It didn't. I forced myself to meet her gaze. Yeah, my voice was hollow. I loved you too. Then I walked out and didn't look back. I left the apartment for the last time, stepping into the heavy night air, and felt nothing. No relief. No grief. Just emptiness. It sat in my chest, pressing against my ribs, dull and suffocating, as if my body hadn't caught up to the reality of what had just happened. I had thought that hearing the truth from her would change something, that it would give me closure, but all it did was leave me standing on the sidewalk, staring at the city stretched out before me, with nowhere to go. Ryan's place was an option, but I didn't want to explain. I didn't want to sit on his couch while he gave me that look, pity mixed with restrained anger, because he had never really liked her, and now he had proof that he had been right. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want advice. I just wanted to disappear, at least for a while. So I walked. The streets were nearly empty, just the occasional car rolling past, headlights flashing across my face before fading into the distance. I barely noticed. My mind kept circling back to the last thing she said. I did love you. Like that meant something. Like that erased the months she spent lying to my face. Like it mattered now that she had already decided I wasn't enough. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't want to look, but I did. Ryan, where the hell are you? I considered ignoring it, but then another message came in. Did you go back to the apartment? Call me. I sighed, running a hand through my hair, and typed back. I'm fine. Just needed air. A few seconds later, my phone rang. I hesitated, then answered. You're a goddamn idiot, Ryan said. Did you go back there? It doesn't matter. Jesus Christ. What did she say? I swallowed. 6 months. Ryan went quiet. That was worse than if he had started yelling. Yeah, I said, even though he hadn't spoken. Another pause. Then, where are you? Walking. Walking where? I glanced around. I had no idea. I just kept moving, letting my feet take me nowhere in particular. Doesn't matter. Ryan exhaled, long and frustrated. Listen, man. You need to crash somewhere. Come here, or get a motel. Just don't. He cut himself off. I frowned. Don't what? A hesitation. Then, just don't do anything fucking stupid. I almost laughed. I'm not gonna throw myself off a bridge, Ryan. That's not what I meant. But it was. Or maybe he meant something else. Maybe he meant I shouldn't go get drunk off my ass again. Maybe he meant I shouldn't do what I was already thinking about. I clenched my jaw. I'm fine. You're not. I didn't answer. Ryan let out another sharp breath. Just come over. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. Not tonight. Then at least tell me where you are. I looked up, realizing for the first time that I recognized the street. I had walked farther than I thought, past the familiar parts of the city, until I ended up here, outside a building I had no business standing in front of. Her building. Not her. The other one. The one she had been calling. My stomach twisted. I didn't even know his name, but I knew where he lived. Ryan was still on the phone, waiting for me to speak. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I didn't know why I was here. Maybe I just needed to see him, to put a face to the person who had replaced me. Maybe I needed to confirm, beyond a doubt, that it was real. Or maybe I just wanted to do something reckless. My fists clenched at my sides. I had been so fucking passive in all of this. Just accepting it, swallowing it down, letting her dictate how this ended. Letting him win without even knowing his face. I took a step forward. Ryan's voice snapped me out of it. Where are you? I swallowed hard, forcing myself to step back onto the sidewalk. I wasn't thinking straight. This wasn't me. I wasn't the guy who showed up at people's doors demanding answers. And what would I even say? Hey, you don't know me, but I know about you. How long have you been sleeping with my girlfriend? No, I wasn't doing this. I turned away from the building, forcing myself to keep walking. I'll call you later, I said, then hung up before Ryan could argue. I needed to get away from here. I needed to start letting this go. But as I walked, the thought dug itself in deeper, refusing to leave. I should have knocked. I walked for hours, but it didn't help. My head was still burning, my hands still clenched, my chest still tight. No amount of distance could change the fact that she had moved on months before I even knew we were over. I had spent so much time lying to myself, convincing myself that we were just in a rough patch, that love could be rebuilt if you tried hard enough. But it wasn't about love. It was about decisions. And she had made hers a long time ago. The city had emptied out, the streets quieter now, the bars starting to close. I wasn't sure where I was going until I was already there, standing outside Ryan's building, staring up at his third-floor window. A single light was still on. He was waiting. Of course, he was. I took the stairs two at a time, shoving open the door without knocking. Ryan was on the couch, phone in his hand, beer half finished on the table. His eyes flicked to me, scanning my face like he was checking for damage. You look like shit. Feel like it? I dropped onto the chair across from him, exhaling sharply. You go to his place? The fact that he even asked told me he had already guessed. I didn't answer. Ryan set his phone down. Did you do something? I shook my head. No. His jaw tensed slightly, like he wasn't sure whether to believe me. Good. Because that would have been fucking stupid. I leaned forward, rubbing my hands together. Yeah, well, stupid starting to sound appealing. Ryan watched me carefully, then sighed. Look, man, I get it. You want to hit something. You want answers. You want a reason, but there isn't one that's gonna make this hurt less. I exhaled through my nose, shaking my head. She didn't even try to fight for it. Because she was done before you even knew there was a fight to have. I looked up sharply. He didn't say it to be cruel. He said it because it was the truth. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. You know what you need to do? Get your shit together. Stop waiting for some perfect moment to move on. There isn't one. You just have to start. I huffed out a breath, leaning back in the chair. And how the hell do I do that? Ryan shrugged. I don't know. But sitting here, stewing in it, drinking yourself into a hole, it's not gonna fix anything. I let the silence stretch between us. He wasn't wrong. But he wasn't the one standing in the wreckage, trying to figure out which pieces still belonged to him. Ryan sighed, pushing himself up from the couch. Come on. I frowned. What? He grabbed his keys, tossing them in his palm. We're going out. I stared at him. It's almost 2 a.m. And I hesitated. The last thing I wanted was to be around people, pretending I wasn't falling apart. But sitting here, stuck in my own head, wasn't any better. I stood. Fine. Ryan grabbed his jacket. Good. Let's go. We ended up at some 24-hour diner, the kind that smelled like burnt coffee and stale grease. A few stragglers sat at the counter, a couple of exhausted-looking waitresses moving between tables. We slid into a booth in the back, the plastic seats sticking slightly under my weight. Ryan ordered coffee. I ordered nothing. For a while, neither of us spoke. The low hum of the diner filled the silence, the clatter of plates, the quiet murmur of the cooks in the back. It should have felt normal. It didn't. Ryan took a sip of his coffee, then set the cup down, watching me. What now? I let out a breath. No idea. You going back to the apartment? No, the thought made my stomach turn. It's not mine anymore. Ryan nodded like he had expected that answer. You can crash at my place for now. Thanks. He leaned back. But you can't stay forever. I let out a humorless laugh. Yeah, I figured. We fell into silence again. Ryan was the first to break it. You gonna tell her to fuck off next time she calls? I hesitated. I wanted to say yes. But the truth was, I didn't know. Ryan sighed. You will. I looked up at him. He smirked slightly, but his eyes were serious. You'll get there. Might take a while. But you will. I didn't answer. Because maybe, just maybe, he was right. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating against the nightstand. My head pounded, my mouth dry, my body heavy with exhaustion that sleep hadn't fixed. The room was dim, the curtains drawn shut, the only light coming from the street lamps outside. Ryan's apartment smelled like old pizza and stale beer, the air thick and unmoving. I blinked at my phone screen, my stomach twisting the second I saw the name. Her. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to answer, to hear her voice, to find out what she could possibly have to say now. The other part wanted to throw the phone against the wall and let it shatter. The ringing stopped. A few seconds later, a new message appeared. I need to see you. I sat up, rubbing my face. My body was still heavy, but my mind was awake now, working too fast, too erratically. She had said everything that needed to be said. What the hell did she want now? An apology? Forgiveness? A chance to explain why 6 months of betrayal wasn't actually as bad as it sounded? Ryan's voice came from the doorway. Tell me you're not thinking about answering that. I looked up. He was leaning against the frame, arms crossed, watching me with that same sharp, assessing look he always had when he knew I was about to do something stupid. I set the phone down. She says she needs to see me. Ryan scoffed. Yeah? And I need $1 million. We don't all get what we want. I let out a slow breath. She wouldn't text if it wasn't important. Or she knows you're still dumb enough to pick up. I didn't respond. Ryan pushed off the doorway, walking into the room, grabbing my phone off the nightstand. Let me make it easy for you. I held out a hand. Ryan. He ignored me, tapping the screen. A second later, my phone vibrated again, this time with a new notification. Blocked number. I clenched my jaw. Really? Ryan tossed the phone back onto the bed. Yeah, you're welcome. I exhaled, pressing my fingers against my temples. What if it was important? Ryan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at me like I was an idiot. You still think she deserves that kind of faith? I didn't answer because I didn't know. Ryan shook his head. Look, man, she had her chance to talk to you. She pissed on it. Don't give her another one. I swallowed hard. And if she calls from another number? Ryan smirked. Then I'll block that one too. I let out a quiet breath, staring at my phone. My chest was tight, my stomach unsettled. But there was something else too, something quieter, something I hadn't expected. Relief. Ryan was right. She didn't deserve another chance to explain herself. I already knew everything I needed to know. I pushed the phone away, leaning back against the wall. I need to get my shit together. Ryan grinned. Finally, something we agree on. I let my head rest against the wall, staring at the ceiling, feeling something shift inside me. I wasn't over it. Not even close. But for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like I might actually get there. The knock on the door came just after midnight. I was half asleep on Ryan's couch, my mind still tangled in the mess of the last few days, when the sound jolted me awake. 3 sharp knocks. Not casual. Not hesitant. A demand. Ryan sat up in the armchair across from me, rubbing his face. You expecting someone? I shook my head. My pulse was already picking up, a sick feeling curling in my gut. The knocks came again, harder this time. Ryan stood, muttering something under his breath as he crossed the room and yanked open the door. His entire body went rigid. What the hell are you doing here? I pushed off the couch, my stomach twisting, already knowing the answer before I saw her. She was standing in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself, eyes flicking between us. She looked different. Not the carefully put-together version of herself I was used to. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, her face bare, dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept. She was still wearing the same sweater from earlier. My throat tightened. Ryan didn't move from the doorway. This is a bad idea. She ignored him. Her gaze landed on me. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Ryan let out a humorless laugh. You're fucking unbelievable. He blocks your number, so you just show up at my place in the middle of the night? What part of he doesn't want to talk to you didn't you get? She flinched. I just need 5 minutes. Ryan turned to me. You want me to throw her out? I swallowed hard. I should have said yes. I should have told her to leave, to stop showing up, to stop trying to pull me back into whatever game she was playing. But instead, I stepped forward. Ryan's jaw clenched. You sure? I nodded. He exhaled sharply and walked past her into the hallway. You've got 5 minutes, he muttered. Then I swear to God, I'll drag you out of here myself. She barely reacted, stepping inside as Ryan disappeared down the hall. I shut the door behind her, every part of me on edge. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. She looked around the apartment like she was trying to avoid looking at me. This is where you've been staying? I crossed my arms. Why are you here? She hesitated, biting her lip. I needed to see you. I exhaled slowly. Why? Her gaze dropped to the floor. Because it feels wrong. How we left things. My chest tightened. That's why you came? Because it feels wrong. She winced. I didn't mean it like that. I clenched my jaw. Then how did you mean it? She sighed, running a hand over her face. I don't know. I hate the way things ended. I hate that we're like this. I let out a bitter laugh. You hate that we're like this? You did this. Her eyes snapped up, anger flashing across her face. I never wanted to hurt you. Yeah? Well, congratulations. You did. She took a shaky breath. I know. I should have thrown her out right then. Should have ended it. But the question I'd been trying to bury clawed its way up before I could stop it. Was it worth it? She blinked. What? I stepped closer, my hand shaking. Was he worth it? Throwing away 7 years, was it worth him? Her mouth opened, then closed. I laughed, shaking my head. That's all I needed to know. I turned toward the door, but before I could reach it, she grabbed my arm. Please don't do this. I froze. The way she said it, soft, desperate, made something sharp twist inside me. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I saw it. The fear in her eyes. The way her fingers trembled against my skin. She was scared. Not of me. Of whatever came next. You made your choice, I said quietly. You don't get to be afraid of losing me now. She swallowed hard, her grip loosening. I never wanted to lose you. I exhaled sharply. Then you shouldn't have let me go. I pulled open the door. She didn't move at first, but then she nodded, stepping past me, her head down. She paused in the doorway. I really did love you. I didn't answer. She walked away. I closed the door. And this time, I didn't look back. Ryan didn't say anything when I walked back into the room. He was leaning against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching me closely like he was waiting to see if I was about to break. I wasn't. I just stood there, letting the weight of what had just happened settle in. She was gone. For real, this time. No lingering texts, no unread messages, no desperate midnight visits. Whatever kept her hanging on, whatever unfinished business she thought she had, it was done. And I wasn't sure if I felt relief or if the emptiness in my chest was something I'd have to learn to live with. Ryan finally spoke. You good? I let out a slow breath. Yeah. He nodded like he didn't fully believe me but wasn't going to push. So what now? That was the real question, wasn't it? I had spent so much time trying to hold on, then spent even more time trying to let go. But what came after? What the hell was I supposed to do with myself now that everything I had spent the last 7 years building was over? I didn't have an answer. Ryan must have sensed that because he pushed off the counter and grabbed his keys. Get dressed. I frowned. For what? He didn't bother explaining. Just threw my jacket at me and walked out the door. I considered ignoring him, staying inside, burying myself under the weight of everything that had happened, but I was sick of feeling like a passenger in my own life. So I grabbed my boots and followed him. We ended up on the other side of the city, parked outside some grimy, hole-in-the-wall boxing gym that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 90s. The neon sign above the entrance flickered weakly, the sound of muffled punches and grunts spilling out from inside. The place smelled like sweat and metal and something stale. It was late, but the gym was still buzzing with energy, fighters moving in and out of the ring, the rhythmic pounding of fists against heavy bags, the occasional sharp bark of a trainer pushing someone past their limits. I shot Ryan a look. Seriously. He shrugged. You need to hit something. I didn't argue. He wasn't wrong. We checked in at the front, Ryan tossing a few bills at the guy behind the desk before leading me to the back where the real work was happening. The sound of gloves connecting with pads filled the air, bodies moving in tight, practiced rhythm. I had never been in a ring before, had never even considered it. But right now, standing here, feeling the raw energy of the place, I wanted in. Ryan tossed me a pair of wraps. You remember how to do this? I shook my head. He sighed and grabbed my hands, wrapping them tightly, securing my knuckles before leading me over to one of the trainers. The guy was older, built like a brick wall, his eyes sharp with the kind of experience that could see straight through bullshit. Ryan clapped me on the back. Go a few rounds with him. Get your head straight. The trainer didn't say anything, just motioned for me to step into the ring. I hesitated for half a second, then climbed through the ropes. The second I was inside, the noise from the gym faded, everything narrowing to just me, him, and the space between us. The trainer studied me. You fight before? No. He nodded, then tossed me a pair of gloves. Good. You don't have bad habits yet. I pulled them on, tightening the straps, my heart hammering faster than it should have been. The trainer raised the mitts and motioned for me to come at him. Jab. I hesitated. Ryan groaned from the sidelines. Just hit the damn thing. I swung. Weak. No power, no technique. The trainer barely moved. He adjusted my stance, corrected my form, and motioned again. Jab. I hit harder. Better. Again. I hit. And hit again. Each time, something inside me cracked open, something raw and ugly, something that had been buried under the weight of the last few months. I didn't have to think, didn't have to analyze or process or wonder what came next. I just had to hit. I kept going until my arms burned, my shoulders ached, my breath came fast and sharp. Sweat dripped down my back, my body screaming for a break, but I didn't stop. Because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering. The trainer finally stepped back. That's enough for tonight. I lowered my gloves, chest rising and falling. My knuckles throbbed under the wraps. My legs felt unsteady, but my head was clear. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I didn't feel like I was drowning. Ryan leaned against the ropes, watching me. Better. I exhaled. Yeah. He nodded, like he had known this would happen all along. Told you. I climbed out of the ring, unwrapping my hands, my body aching in a way that felt earned. I wasn't magically fixed. I wasn't suddenly healed. But I had taken a step. A real one. And for now, that was enough.